Well, Roz, you did Murph.
I did.
How'd you do?
Pretty good. Got a new PR.
What was it?
My time, 36:47.
36:47. How did you break that up?
I did, obviously, the mile run at the beginning, and then I partitioned the movements in between. So I was going to do 20 rounds of 5 pull-ups, 10 push-ups, and 15 squats. But having done half Murph a few weeks ago, I knew that the push-ups were going to be the sticking point. Like, I fatigue very quickly on those, and I really didn't want to waste a lot of time staring at the ground. So I kind of sandwiched my pull-ups by doing 5 push-ups first, then 5 pull-ups, and then 5 push-ups again, and then 15 squats.
Yeah, that's a good strategy. I've seen people kind of put out there like ways to save your pull-ups, push-ups, or legs.
Right.
Not save as in have a bunch left, but actually make sure you don't wind up destroying yourself.
Right, because that was my problem in half Murph. I just ended up fatigued, and I had something like 30 push-ups left to do at the end with minimal other movements, I think a handful of squats, and I was just doing singles. So I wanted to avoid that happening again. And the strategy actually worked really well. I was able to do sets of 5 most of the time for my push-ups. Sometimes I was doing sets of 3, quick shake, and then 2 reps. So it worked really well. I was pleased.
What's funny is for most people, when they first start CrossFit, that's our crazy dog. When you first start CrossFit, the pull-ups are the hard part.
I know, right? It's crazy. And I remember distinctly last year the pull-ups being a really challenging aspect. The push-ups too, but the pull-ups were just fatiguing me as well. Like, it was a double whammy. So this year it was cool to do it and actually to have done half Murph and realize, wow, my pull-ups have gotten so much stronger than last year. And I actually credit a lot of that to doing things like lifting, like a lot of the deadlifts and things like that I've been doing lately.
Well, getting stronger is a good way to get stronger.
Yeah.
Right? And people kind of misconstrue, hey, I'm lifting weights. I can only get good at lifting weights, not at gymnastics at this time. Where the truth is, if you do CrossFit well, you can get better at everything.
For sure. And it's really eye-opening, because I think that is the natural assumption that, well, hey, if I get stronger in my lifts, I'm probably not going to get any better at gymnastics. In fact, I might get worse because I'll have more weight to carry. But yeah, I've definitely noticed that I'm getting a lot stronger in my gymnastics movements now.
Well, lucky for me, it's clearing up because I still have to do Murph.
I'm not sure you mean that. I think secretly you were hoping it was going to stay rainy.
No, it's Monday. We're recording this on Memorial Day. I just worked this weekend and I'm a little tired today. We didn't even train that hard this weekend, but I don't know. Some days you just come home from travel and your body's tired.
I don't think people realize how exhausting it is driving.
I only drove to Miami.
I know, but it's still 2 hours in the car each way. Like, that's not great for your body.
I think for me, more so when I'm gone, I just don't get quality sleep. Even if, I wasn't up late, I wasn't up super early, I just don't think in the night there I'm getting great sleep.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you're sleeping in a hotel room with crazy air conditioning units. And
yeah, I woke up at one point during the night, it was just this loud buzzing, and I had to go over and adjust the way the AC unit was, the vent was pointed, you know, all those types of weird things in hotel rooms.
I hate those in-room AC units.
First world problems. But anyway, we're going to dive into one of our questions today. Molly sends us a lot of great questions, and I think a lot of the times Molly sends us questions, they're more so because she reads them online or she's trying to help others. Mm-hmm. So Molly doesn't necessarily...
I know, because she's pretty clued up.
Yeah, she knows what she's doing. But at the same time, she wants us to answer questions for other people. And she sees them out there and she knows, hey, you guys know what you're talking about. You have good insight to all this. Why don't you answer these questions?
Well, I think she's put so many people onto us. I'm sure she gets a lot of her friends coming to her with these questions.
Right. And instead of answering them, hey, just listen to this podcast. So let's dive into this question. Counting macros with your partner, husband, wife. Meaning, all right,
the person you live with.
Your significant other. Or maybe...
your roommate.
Yeah, maybe just your roommate for some people. What if you don't eat the same things. How do you deal with dinner? Here's her example. She logs her whole day in advance. Well done, Molly. And she figures out dinner early that morning. Her husband then goes into her diary and copies it and then works the rest of his day around what's planned for dinner.
Right, so he's going to have the same thing.
Correct.
Right.
And then her follow-up question is, now what if you're on the program and your spouse, partner, roommate has no interest or isn't supportive? Then what do you do? And that's a whole new can of worms.
Well,
Let's not even dive into that aspect.
Ellie would be able to answer that question for
We
us.
could get the Misadventures of Ellie Kelly back on this podcast. But let's talk about the first one. What's the best course of action? You guys are a team now. You're both doing it together.
Okay.
What are some pieces of advice you would throw out there?
Well, obviously, if you can eat the same things at dinner time, if that's the meal that you're having together, then that's helpful. I know it gets a little bit stressful and crazy in the kitchen for us because we're usually having different meals and and the scale is in high demand and the stove is in high demand. So it definitely makes things easier if you can have the same thing. And I think that's really smart for, if Molly is going in or whoever is going in and planning their day ahead, then cool, yeah, you can just use that feature of going to find your friend in MyFitnessPal, looking at their diary for the day and copying their meal across to your own diary. Or if your partner is super awesome, maybe they give you a heads up and send you by text their dinner that they've planned for the day.
And I think we utilize both of those kind of thought processes. I would definitely say what's unique about tracking the macros is there are aspects to living and eating with someone else that's actually harder now. For example, if you and I just live together, one of us can make dinner and be like, dinner's ready. Where we have to be aware of what the other person needs as far as their macros when making dinner.
Yeah.
Some days we eat in a way where maybe I need more carbs for dinner, and you might have made this delicious, high-protein, roast, and then I'm like, well, I can't even eat that.
Mm-hmm.
So, obviously, like Molly said, you can set your day up in advance. So yesterday I got home from the seminar, and you, I'm laughing at the dogs, and you had some salmon made, and I was like, oh, that looks good. And you said you could have it tomorrow. So I know that I can have that salmon planned in for tomorrow.
Right.
Where, in the past, maybe we would have just kind of made dinner. You and I never did because we were always tracking macros together. But in past relationships, kind of like dinner served.
Right.
So it's a little bit more challenging in that respect.
Yeah. And I think we still have a conversation about it, though. In the morning, I kind of ask you, what do you want? And you kind of try to figure out your day, and we try to plan ahead to make sure that dinner isn't too complicated. But sometimes when we're busy, one of us is out of the house before the other, it could get to the end of the night, and Jay, you could be having something completely different to me, and that's fine. It's just that does create a little more of a challenge in the kitchen to have different things, but we keep our cooking pretty simple.
Well, I was going to say, that's a big thing of what we do. We don't really plan ahead. So neither one of us, hey, you two.
Stop killing each other.
We're running a dog fighting ring over here. One thing we don't do is meal prep. So we often don't cook big enough meals so there's leftovers.
Yeah, I would qualify that by saying we meal prep in different ways, though. For example, I may prepare a ton of vegetables in advance. So I've already done all the chopping, maybe they're not cooked, or maybe I have pre-cooked like a bunch of sweet potato, for example. But they're separate, they're separate. It's not like I've created this whole huge meal that is then left over for the rest of the week.
Right, so the point is, a lot of the time we're kind of filling in our gaps come dinner time.
And that makes it easy, There's Tupperware in the fridge that has maybe pre-cooked veggies or pre-cooked protein, so then you can just kind of fill in your dinner fairly easily at the end of the night.
Yeah.
I don't know why they're so full of energy today.
They slept in a little bit.
They did sleep in this morning.
Well,
They knew it was a public holiday. They were like, damn, I'm going to get my extra 30 minutes of sleep.
If you've never watched dogs wrestle, to me it's so entertaining because it's like, as a wrestler, what they do is just so innate.
Yeah.
Like, Mimi shoots for a takedown. Look at her. She just took Lola down. She's pinning her. She's keeping her tight. She's pinning her hips down. It's like, it's really entertaining. And I love the fact that we have two
She's a natural born wrestler.
female dogs that enjoy humping one another. One of which is in heat.
It's all about the power play.
And they go back and forth humping one another.
Oh yeah, neither one of them is truly dominant
Yeah.
from what I can tell.
Okay, let's not talk about dog wrestling. There's no question about that this week. But so let's think big picture. Let's give some advice out there. Talk to your partner in the morning. I think you and I did that already today. You were kind of thinking, what are we going to do? We have to go grocery shopping. What do we have left? You're gone. We kind of look at the week in advance. And, we knew we had salmon. I knew I wanted to have couscous. I started to plug that in. You're probably not having any couscous.
Probably. I think you're having the whole box.
No, I might have half.
No, I'm probably not. There's lots of veggies in the fridge.
And you have some veggies left, but then the veggies will be there, and I can scoop out some. I think we're pretty independent when it comes to serving our own dinner.
Mm-hmm.
I would say 9 out of 10 times we're actually not eating the same dinner. We're just eating at the same time.
Yeah.
And I think that's important as well. Now, obviously, that would probably become more challenging with more people here or kids involved.
Right.
But it's kind of like, hey, here are the options, kind of like a buffet every night. Fill in what you need.
Exactly, and that's kind of what I tried to do not so long ago when my sister was here and my mom. I was kind of like, hey, look, guys, I've prepared this food. It's all separate on the counter or on the stove. Go help yourself to what you need to fill in your day. So there's always options there for carbs, fat, and protein.
And that's one thing we do. We keep a lot of our foods separate and then mix and match based on preference and based on macros.
Right.
So, what would be different would be, we're also home throughout the day. It's a little bit easier for us. But for some people, if they used a crock pot, for example, and made their chili stew and they had their servings, you would plug that in first thing for dinner time and then base the rest of your day around it, kind of like Molly and Cade do.
Right, because there's less ease in being able to
adjust.
Exactly, because all of those ingredients are already mixed together.
So, for example, tonight I'm having salmon, couscous, and we'll throw some veggies in there.
Right.
If I eat something different, my day is already set. But if I manipulate it a little bit, and now my protein's over, I know very simply all I have to do is adjust one thing, the salmon, and I'm back dialed in.
Right. Keeps things really simple.
Exactly.
So, although...
She's going at it right there.
Yeah, right in the head.
You are getting... There's going to be...
We should video this sometime for our followers.
I
love how there's a bloody towel in the background, which really does look like they fight each other to the death.
Oh, this is a full hump going on. There she goes. We're up.
Oh, they got tired.
They be good. That was the best part about that is Lola just keeps chewing her toy. Lola's chewing. Mimi's humping. There she goes again. Pin her down. We're going to post this video somewhere, so you'll understand what we're talking about.
But as I was saying, although family meals or pre-cooked, crock pots full of different ingredients can make life more simple in terms of just having your kind of leftovers for the week, it can make making adjustments a little more challenging, that's all. So you just have to be aware of that and make sure you plug that in first and then figure out where you would make adjustments elsewhere during the day.
And we do that. You've done that in the past. You've made things like turkey burgers that have multiple macros in it. You've made things like stews. And the other thing you do sometimes is you're like, hey, we have this needs to get eaten. This needs to get eaten. So I plug that in first.
Right.
I mean, big picture, whether you're living with someone or doing this on your own, is the more you plan ahead, the more you're setting yourself up for success.
Right.
And also have a conversation. We don't eat necessarily the same foods often, not because it's just simple, but if we wanted to, if we were like, hey, we're doing this for dinner tonight or we're going to our friend's house, we have that conversation, we plug it in first.
Yeah.
And, little other things that we do maybe for success would be if we are having the same food, like Molly said, one of us would plug it in and share it. The sharing feature in there, or go into the app itself and just copy and add it to your day.
Yeah.
You can actually add just pieces of someone's day to yours.
Yeah, and sometimes I'll do that, say if I'm home and maybe you're coaching or, I can't communicate with you and I don't know what you're having for dinner, I'll look in your diary, I'll see what you're having, and I'll start getting that already.
Yeah, that's always helpful. Or like yesterday when I'm at a seminar and I'm coming home and I have a big chunk of my day left to eat, and you say, hey, this is what we have.
Right.
So little things, set each other up for success. I think like anything else you're doing with your partner, the more you can discuss it, the more you can do it together, and the more you can just basically help one another, the more you're setting yourself up for success.
For sure.
Super simple.
And then, was there a question in there, what if your partner's not doing it?
Well, then we have that whole, we have that basically is a two-pronged question of A, what if your partner's not doing it, but B, what if that same partner's not doing it and now is unsupportive? So that one's simple. You don't stay with that partner. How's that?
There we go.
If your partner doesn't...
There's a statement.
It goes, this is deeper than that, of course. Hey, I track macros. She doesn't. Chances are I wouldn't have wound up with someone that didn't. It's just something we do, something that you and I had in common. But I think there's a difference between, hey, your partner doesn't do it, and they're actually unsupportive.
Yeah, that would be upsetting. I think, something that's really fundamentally important to you, and to not have your partner support it. But hopefully that situation doesn't arise too often, and if it does, it's dealt with fairly quickly.
Yeah, and feel free to chat with us about it. We can chat with that offline.
Yeah, but I know, our friend Ellie, she has an incredibly supportive partner who does not track macros. And
he sporadically tests the waters.
Does he?
Yeah, you're I would say as a whole he doesn't track macros.
Right.
But he's very, very supportive.
He is.
He's too supportive. He's a little...
They told a funny story about it though, how one time he had messed up some recipe for dinner and he was too afraid to tell her. And she was like, I do not believe the macros you sent me in this. Did you mess something up? And he finally caved in and admitted it.
But after they had ate dinner.
Right, and she lost her rag.
Yeah, that'd be the one person you don't want mad at you is Ellie. But supposedly this story was immediately.
It like some anniversary
I think we may have put this on the podcast.
I think we did. I think it all came to light on the podcast.
But it's like immediately she looked at it and was like, "This can't be right."
Right.
It was some sort of soup with pasta.
And I love how that. I think that's cool that you notice that, or that you have that awareness. And
I think it's cool.
That's the kind of thing that you develop.
It's cool on two fronts. It's cool that Ellie had the wherewithal to see something and be like, "This doesn't look right."
Right.
And that's what we tell people about eating out. Even eventually, that gets better and easier.
Yeah.
But the other cool part of it is, hey, this guy that doesn't track, your husband, tried to track.
Right.
So it's like you can be mad at him, and I get it, because ultimately he was lying about it rather than rectifying the situation, which he probably could have done. But, Ellie caught it. Jack, like a good smart man, deny.
That was it. I think that was the worst part about it. He lied for as long as he possibly could.
The only advice I would give Jack is you got to die with that story. But, once he told her, supposedly, like, they didn't talk for like a day, and then finally she got over it. And, the point is, if you're tracking macros to be a better person, whatever that means for you, healthier, fitter, stronger, ideally you have a supportive spouse or roommate or significant other that's there for you to help track, but at the same time, it's up to you. But the cool thing we tell people, that's a question we get a lot. I can't do this because I have a family and, we eat together and I have kids. And I'm like, this is the best diet for that because you can literally eat those chicken nuggets.
Right.
Hey, we're not parents yet, but let's understand your kids don't eat crap any more than you do. Right?
Right.
So, and obviously let's make that clear. We're proponents of eating good foods, but we tend to feed our bodies 80-20 and then our kids like 10-90.
Mm-hmm.
So,
It's funny that documentary I started watching. I have to start it again with you because I wasn't paying full attention. And this is a whole other topic as well. In it, they try to change the diet of this kid, and like the parents realize they've only been giving their kids like complete junk, and it takes 5 days before these kids to like actually come around to the idea of eating healthy food, and then it's like crazy transformation. They're like eating their vegetables, using their knives and forks, whereas before they were like throwing themselves over the counter, like eating with their hands, like trying to get goldfish, and it's crazy. Magic pill.
well, that's the name of the documentary on Netflix.
documentary.
Yeah, but at the same time, it's like, yeah, your kid's behavior is dictated by the food they eat.
Right, but my point is as well is like all these people who say, "Oh, my kid won't eat any healthy food." Well, that's because you give them the option of having junk food, which they're addicted to, and so all you have to do is get rid of that food.
Right.
Put the healthy food in front of them. 5 days, okay, yeah, they're screaming, but in 5 days' time, they're going to start eating because they're hungry, and it's human nature. They want to survive. They will eat the food you put in front of them.
Yeah, I mean, that's a ridiculous statement. Well, my kids won't eat that.
Right.
Your kids will eat.
They will eat it.
They will eat before they die.
Right. And this kid in the documentary, like, did go through, I think, a day of, like, not eating anything. And the parents were starting to worry, but they stuck with it. And then sure enough, next day, she starts eating the vegetables.
Yeah, it's not ideal if your kids don't eat for a day, but it's probably better than them eating what you're feeding them.
Right.
And again, we're being very general here. Maybe you feed your kids well, but given an experiment, I went to Disney World with this kid, and the mom and the grandparents were feeding him just sugar upon sugar. And
I'm not gonna lie, you need sugar to get through Disney World.
No, but let me explain. The kid had like serious behavioral issues and would do things like, I don't want to call it Tourette's, but like shake, and had these like things that he would do. And I started to notice that those would only happen after significant amounts of processed food. Not significant, after eating that.
But kind of like coming off a sugar high, you mean?
Always.
Yeah.
And when they kind of limited it and gave him better foods, and it wasn't hard. Like, I got him to eat better foods because he was all into Star Wars at the time, and he was like old enough. It was like second grade or whatever. I don't remember. But it was like, hey, this is what Jedis eat. And he's like, really?
Right.
And I'm like, yeah, I'm eating it. Look at me. And he's like, okay. It was like not hard. But I mean, it was a direct relationship between what he ate and his behavior.
And interesting point that you just covered, which kind of ties us back to our original discussion, is if you are leading by example and you live with your partner who you want to maybe encourage to start doing flexible eating or tracking their macros, all you have to do is lead by example. You don't need to tell them to do it. In fact, you should not tell them to do it. Like, let it be their own choice. But if you hope that maybe they will want to join in with you, well then just lead by example. Because they'll start seeing the health benefits that you have. They'll see you start looking amazing and sexy. And I guarantee you, if they're maybe somewhat unhappy or want to improve with their fitness or their physical appearance or whatever it may be, they will, copy in a sense. They will want to mirror what you're doing because it's working.
In addition, I think they'll realize this. Two things happen. They see you eating foods you enjoy.
Right.
Losing weight. We've heard that numerous times. Like, now my husband wants to do it because he realized I'm eating ice cream and losing weight. And for so many people, they hear the word, oh, I'm doing a diet, and they're like, well, I don't want to do that. Mm-hmm. But then they realize, well, you can eat that food. And then they also realize it's not that hard. Like, when you sit down to dinner eating the same food as your family, but all you did was throw it on the scale.
Yeah, it's the same thing with my sister. Like, I've tried for years to help her out with her diet and her health, and she has been a fussy eater her entire life. And, I didn't actually try to get her to do macros, but she was watching us when she was last here, and she said, okay, so how do I do this? I'm going to download the app, show me what to do. And it was great. I didn't have to tell her to do it or anything. She saw what we were doing, and she wanted to do it,
And, I mean, your sister's smart. I mean, she's not a genius. She's not dumb, right? And by the end of the day, she was like, all right, I've got my numbers really close to zeros.
Right, I know. She figured it out pretty quickly.
It wasn't that hard. And it wasn't like you were giving her these crazy lessons. She just figured it out.
Completely.
So, big picture for all of this. Let's sum up how to make this happen. Take care of yourself first.
Absolutely.
It's just like being on an airplane. Put your oxygen mask on. What did I say? Oxygen?
I think you said oxygen. Oxygen.
Oxygen.
Oxygen.
Which is it?
Oxygen.
Oxygen mask
Oxy.
on first before helping others. And that's what you have to do. Take care of yourself first, then worry about what your significant other is doing. Plan your day in advance. Share foods with them. Tell them what you're eating. All that good conversation. And that's something that we do often. And then plan the rest of your day.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to a significant other that's not doing it, again, take care of yourself first. Show them how easy it is, and then be open, but don't push them to do it.
Absolutely. And just, always try to keep things simple if you can, like we said. We find for us it's most convenient to have a few pre-cooked options available, so maybe some pre-cooked lean protein in the fridge, some vegetables as well, just so that people can fill in their day easily at the end of the day.
And feed your kids good quality foods.
Yeah, for sure.
See, that makes a difference. I'd be anxious to see that. I'd be anxious if you have kids and you're listening to this podcast. I'd be anxious to have a chat with you and see what you're currently doing with your kids and see if we can do something to, change their, whether it's behavior, their health, their body, all that stuff. It's not too early, it's not too late. You have to set your kids up for success now. By the time they're 12 or 13, you've given them their nutrition habits for the rest of their life, unless they decide, like you, to make a change.
For sure.
All right, guys, that's it. We hope you had a great Memorial Day. We hope you enjoyed Murph or whatever workout you did. We hope you are having a great week thus far. We will be back next week, and by that time, I will be 40 years old.
Oh my gosh.
I'll be an old man. But as always, check us out. You can find us at ownyoureating.com. You can check us out on social media, anywhere and everywhere, at ownyoureating. If you have questions, comments, concerns, feel free to email us, contact@ownyoureating.com. We are even on Pinterest, Twitter.
You're so proud of our Pinterest profile.
My LinkedIn has blown up ever since I shared it on our Food for Thought email. And if you're not already subscribed to our email list, I highly recommend you do so. I've sent out some good quality posts out there that have gotten some feedback. We can leave it at that. And you'll definitely want to check it out. Anything else, Roz?
Take care of your flowers.